It had been 1 week since Naruto's training with Jiraiya had started. The blonde had improved by leaps and bounds and didn't appear to be slowing down. Jiraiya was proud of his student, even though he wouldn't be telling him anytime soon, and knew that he would be the only one capable of surpassing the fourth. If it weren't for the boy's fear of using the Kyuubi's chakra, then he would easily be high Chunin level. Jiraiya had hinted that he wanted Naruto to use the fox's chakra, but Naruto would refuse. Naruto had improved on what he had said were his weaknesses. The boy had easily grasped the toad-style taijutsu. It had been difficult at first, since Naruto would always rush into the attacks, but Jiraiya had drilled that out of him. The blonde was on his way to mastering the taijutsu, but, again, would have been a lot better mixed with the Kyuubi's chakra. It was a shame for Naruto to ignore something that would give him a great advantage over any other ninja. The blonde had mastered the 2 wind chakra control exercises already. Naruto had already attempted to use the jutsu Kakashi had given him but had some difficulty performing them. Sometimes the jutsu wouldn't have enough power behind them, while other times Naruto would put too much chakra behind the jutsu, making the attack too hard to control. The boy was making some progress but would need help on his wind jutsu. Naruto had also improved on his sealing. It had been hard to make the boy pay attention when they started, but when he got the basics down, he began to soak everything up like a sponge. The blonde could now use his own seals for basic stuff like packing things into scrolls, making paper bombs and making restriction seals. It would take a while for Naruto to learn advanced sealing, and Jiraiya had a feeling that this would be difficult for Naruto to learn. The only thing that the boy still struggled in was summoning. He had continued to summon weak toads and had even summoned a tadpole once. Jiraiya knew that in order to get his student to master summoning, he would need to get the boy to use the fox's chakra. It would be hard to get Naruto to use it since he didn't plan on using that chakra anytime soon. The Sannin would have to trick Naruto into using it, but knew that Minato wouldn't approve if he still liver. Jiraiya sighed as he thought about what the boy still needed to learn. It would take time to train the boy, and from what he heard, the Akutsuki had begun to move. They hadn't captured any Jinchuriki, but they had begun to prepare to do so. Jiraiya would need to train the boy in order to make him strong enough to protect himself. This would require his full attention, but he couldn't stay in the same place for too long. This meant that he had to take the boy on a long training trip. The sound of giggling was heard and Jiraiya smiled. He would push his thoughts aside for now. Right now there was potential research material waiting for him. Naruto walked through town with a smile. Jiraiya had treated him to ramen since his training was going great. The Sannin had asked if he liked any girl and, though skeptical at first, Naruto admitted to having a crush on Sakura. Jiraiya had then asked him to find her and give her a hug or kiss, and that they would meet for training the following day. Naruto had been flabbergasted but agreed to give her a hug when Jiraiya said that it was part of his training. So Naruto was currently looking for his teammate with his usual fake smile. He spotted the pink-haired girl on the distance and gulped. He knew what would happen if he just outright asked her, so that left catching her by surprise. The girl would probably hit him when he hugged her. Naruto thought that maybe Jiraiya had asked him to do this in order to test his resistance. The blonde walked up to his teammate and waved. "Hey Sakura." Naruto greeted with his usual cheerfulness. Sakura frowned. "Naruto, shouldn't you be training or something? You're up against Neji after all." She said, "He is a genius like Sasuke, so he'll be hard to beat." Naruto frowned. "As if Sasuke could actually beat me." The blonde crossed his arms and huffed, "I'm actually in the middle of my training." "What kind of training?" Sakura asked. The blonde gulped and had a light blush on his face. "WLUC." The teen began, "What's that?" Naruto pointed behind Sakura, and the moment she turned around hugged her around the waist. Sakura fumed. "Naruto." She punched the blonde away before walking away with a stomp on her step, "Stupid pervert." Naruto sat on the ground and found that his nose was bleeding slightly. Man, Sakura packs a punch. I have to commend Ino on actually fighting her when I next see her. The blonde murmured. You know, that you're not really supposed to throw yourself at a girl, right? Came a voice. Naruto looked up and found himself in front of Ino. Hey Ino, he said with a smile, what are you doing here? Ino sighed. I just came back from my training with Asuma-sensei. She explained, but that doesn't matter right now. You're bleeding, Naruto. The blonde shook his head. I'm okay, don't worry. He stood up and smiled, a bloody nose is not too bad. The kunoichi frowned and crossed her arms. Naruto knew that look inside. You know where we're going already, right? Ino asked. Naruto nodded in understanding, let's go. Naruto followed Ino with a pout. Ino would take him to her house again and look at his wounds. They had been spending more time together since their semi-promise and had come to know each other a lot better. Whenever Ino would see Naruto in bad condition after training, she would take him to her house and fix him up, though Naruto still avoided bumping into her mom. The two blondes had been keeping up with each other's improvements. Naruto was happy to know that Ino had actually taken his words to heart and had improved on her skills. Ino had learned that she had a water affinity and had begun to learn how to control water with her chakra. Asuma had told Ino that she had good chakra control and it would only be a few days until she mastered the water element. For that same reason he had gotten Kurenai to teach the girl some genjutsu, which she picked up rather easily. Her chakra capacity was still kind of low but had been improving as her stamina. The two would get together on their days off training and teach each other any new things they learned. Naruto had been teaching Ino how to control wind chakra while Ino, in turn, taught Naruto how to control water chakra. Though they hated to admit it, the two were doing completely horrible. It was true that a ninja could pick up a second nature, but that took a long time. The two blondes had made little progress but still tried whenever they got the chance. When the two finally got to Ino's home, they entered and made their way to Ino's room. Naruto had become quite familiar with the home since he was there constantly. Ino still told him to talk to her parents if he could, but he would be too nervous to do so. He wanted to make Ino happy, since she was a good friend, but his past experiences with adults made him keep his distance from them. Sit down while I get the first aid kit, Ino said with a sigh. Naruto was a good friend, but Ino was mad at his inability to stay safe. Though she had to admit that she actually enjoyed healing his wounds since it made her feel needed and she was glad to help Naruto get better. Naruto sat on the all-too-familiar chair and ran a hand through his hair. The blonde was glad that Ino would worry about him and go to the trouble to heal his wounds, but he hated to bother people, much less his friends. Ino emerged from the bathroom with the first aid on hand. The teen couldn't help but sigh, he was getting tired of the burning brown stuff Ino would put on his cuts. Ino gave Naruto a smile. Don't worry, I'll get you cleaned up in no time, she exclaimed cheerfully. Naruto smiled back. Even if the stuff Ino would put on him burned like hell, he was glad to see her smile. Ino had become one of Naruto's most important people and he would do anything to see her happy. Thanks, Ino, he said with a smile. Don't mention it, she replied happily. With that, Ino began to work on the area around Naruto's nose. She saw that part of the skin had been torn off with the punch the blonde received. Remind me not to piss off forehead. Naruto chuckled. She packs a nasty punch, he replied, wincing slightly as Ino put the brown stuff on his wound. Ino frowned. Why would she do this to you? Next time I see her, I'll give her a piece of my mind, she declared. What's wrong with her, anyway? Naruto laughed nervously. You don't have to do that, he said. It was kind of my fault anyway. Ino sighed. Okay, I'll drop it, but if she ever hurts you again, I'll knock some sense into her. She finished working on Naruto's wound and patted him on the head. All done. Naruto pouted and crossed his arms. Don't treat me like a baby. Ino giggled and shook her head. You're really something, Naruto. She smiled and held out her hand. All done, you may leave now. Naruto smiled and took Ino's hand. That's so nice of you. He joked, I really do need to get back to my training. Ino helped Naruto up and the two began to walk out of the house. Ino looked confused. I thought that you were done with your training with Jiraiya by this time of day? The orange-clad ninja smiled. I am done training with him for today, but I have to do some training of my own. He explained, I'm having trouble with my Winjutsus and have to practice. You're already practicing your jutsus? Ino asked in surprise. Naruto nodded with a grin. Well, why don't you ask Asuma-sensei for help? He's a wind user after all. Naruto smiled in excitement. What are we waiting for? Let's go see him. Ino sighed. You're really loud sometimes, you know? Despite herself, Ino smiled. Fine, let's go see Asuma-sensei. With that, the two blondes left the home to meet with Asuma. Ino led Naruto to Team 10's training ground. It was very similar to Team 7's training ground, with the only difference being a small hill next to a rocky area. From the condition the rocky area was in, Naruto guessed that it was used for sparring or training. Asuma stood on the training ground with Shikamaru and Choji. He gave the two blondes an odd look before walking over to them. What are you guys doing here? Your training is over for today, Ino. Asuma said with a look of slight confusion. Ino smiled. We didn't come here for my own training, I already trained a lot. She explained, we came here hoping that you could help Naruto with his own training. Asuma raised a brow. Why would you need my help? He asked Naruto. Ino elbowed Naruto's ribs as a sign to start talking. The blonde winced and glared at Ino. Why'd you do that? Ino returned the glare. I'm signaling you to tell him why you need his help. Naruto frowned. Well, you shouldn't have signaled me like that. He poked Ino on the side, making her yelp. See, it hurts when you hit someone on the ribs. Ino blushed in anger. Why'd you do that? She exclaimed before elbowing him on the side again. Asuma watched the exchange in amusement. He was glad that his student had made a new friend, and from what he could see, they were quite close. The Jonin chuckled. What do you need my help with, Naruto? Naruto stopped poking Ino and turned to Asuma. I'm having some trouble using my Winjutsus and Ino said that you might be able to help. Asuma ran a hand through his beard. It's quite rare to see wind users in Konoha. He began, have you done any of the chakra control exercises? Naruto nodded. I've done the leaf and rock cutting exercises. Asuma smiled in approval. So I take it that you're having problems with the power behind the jutsu? He asked. Naruto nodded, very well, I'll help you out. It might take a few days, so I want you to come here whenever you can, you'll be training with Team 10 from now on. Ino smiled. That'll be great, Asuma-sensei. She said in excitement, I only hope you can keep up with us, Naruto. Naruto grinned. You're the ones who aren't going to be able to keep up with me. He said, thanks for helping me out, Asuma-sensei. Asuma grinned. Don't worry about it, kid. He began, we'll begin tomorrow at 2 in the afternoon. Got it. Naruto said with a smile. If he was able to master the jutsu, then his skills would have improved overall. He would have the strength to protect his friends in no time. He made a note to thank Ino later, she didn't know how much she had helped him with everything. He was glad to call her a friend and was even happier to get to spend more time with her. He really looked forward to his training with Team 10. Naruto sat on the ground in front of Asuma. The Jonin had been explaining the concepts of wind chakra. Ino was sitting against a tree and watching the two train. Shikamaru and Choji had been given the rest of the day off and left the training grounds. Naruto learned that wind chakra came from his surroundings, not like other elements that came from within.
What jutsu are you trying to learn? Asuma asked once he was done with his explanation.
I've only tried 2 so far, Naruto informed. One is the spiraling wind ball and the other is the wind wave.
Asuma nodded.
Those have great use in battle,
he said. They are easy to master once you get a hold of the basics.
In order to use the spiraling wind ball, you need to keep molding the chakra after gathering it. As for the wind wave, what you need to do is create a smooth end instead of a sharp one, as you learned in your training. I want you to use the jutsu with the things I told you in mind.
Asuma pointed at a large boulder. Use the jutsu on that boulder and remember what I told you. Naruto nodded and stood up.
He stared at the boulder in complete seriousness and took a deep breath. He blew into his hand and began to mold the wind chakra. A ball of compressed air formed on his hand. It wavered slightly, but it was still passable.
Wind style, spiraling wind ball, Naruto yelled as he ran at the boulder.
The blonde slammed the ball into the rock, making the attack break apart pieces of the rock before unleashing the compressed wind in a small explosion.
Naruto grinned when he saw the large hole on the boulder. This attack had been a lot better than any of the others he had done. Way to go, Naruto! Ino cheered with a smile. Asuma nodded in approval.
That was very good, Naruto, but you didn't use the attack like it was supposed to, he said with a sad smile. You are supposed to throw the ball, not keep it in your hand like that.
Let's see the next one.
Got it, Naruto said with a nod. The blonde flashed through hand signs and began to gather wind chakra, wind style, wind wave. The teen swung his hand and a large wave of air shot towards the boulder. It hit with great impact and broke small pieces of the rock.
That was great, Naruto,
Asuma praised. Take into mind that wind wave is used to push people aside instead of hurting them.
Naruto smiled.
All he needed to do now was perfect his spiraling ball and start practicing his other 2 jutsu.
Thanks for the help, Asuma-sensei. Don't mention it, Asuma replied. I'm sorry to say this, but I have to go. I promised I would be somewhere and it's getting kind of late. I'll see you 2 tomorrow.
The Jonin disappeared in a puff of smoke with a look of worry on his face.
Will he be all right? Naruto asked Ino. Ino smiled.
Don't worry about it, he's probably late for a date with Kurenai-sensei. She looked at Naruto's clothes and smirked. I have a surprise for all your hard work, Naruto.
Really? Naruto asked in excitement.
Yup, Ino said with a smirk. Just follow me. She smiled inwardly when she heard Naruto cheered. She had gotten to know the blonde and knew that he wouldn't be too happy with the surprise.
What?
Why are we here?
Naruto exclaimed with a frown. Ino's surprise had turned out to be a clothes shop. Ino frowned. Look at the stuff you wear.
She deadpanned. You need to get some clothes that make you look more serious.
The blonde pouted. There's nothing wrong with my clothes,
he said with his arms crossed. Besides, I'm not sure this store is for me. He really didn't want to get thrown out in front of Ino. That would only raise questions and he would be forced to tell her about the fox.
The kunoichi smiled. Don't worry about it, Naruto, she said. I'm sure that you'll like this store.
It opened a few months ago and has the best clothes from neighboring villages. Everything there, even the workers, are from other villages.
Naruto's expression changed into a hopeful one.
Are you sure everyone there are from different villages?
He smiled when he saw Ino nod. This would mean that they might not know of his condition. Fine, let's go. Ino smiled and took hold of Naruto's sleeve before dragging him in.
The inside of the shop was pretty spacious and had many people looking around. He noticed that some of them threw him dirty looks, but the workers simply kept to themselves.
Welcome,
a female worker with long brown hair greeted. Please call for me if you need help looking for certain clothing.
Ino smiled. We're looking for shinobi clothing,
She pointed at Naruto. It's for him, so could you show us to what would fit him?
The worker smiled at the two and got a weird look on her eye. It's always nice to see young couples shopping together.
Naruto's and Ino's right eye twitched at the mention of the word couple. Follow me, I'm sure we'll find something you'll like.
The woman led them to an area with many pieces of clothing for shinobi.
Some of them had metal plates and some had many hidden compartments. Naruto's eyes immediately landed on a lone orange and black jacket. He instantly ran over to it and smiled excitedly.
Don't even think about it.
Ino snapped, we're here to get rid of the orange.
Get some other colors.
Naruto pouted and crossed his arms.
Fine.
He said with a sigh, I'll get something else.
The worker giggled. We have some selection over here.
She said, gaining Ino's attention, please follow me.
Ino followed the worker while Naruto stayed behind.
The blonde had found some clothes that he actually liked and there was no orange on them. He hated the idea of not wearing any orange, but Ino would only lash out him again if he got something with the smallest hint of orange.
Ino smiled in excitement.
This is perfect,
she declared. Ino was holding a purple t-shirt and a pair of purple pants for Naruto.
She thought of finding matching ninja sandals but noticed the absence of said blonde. Where did he go?
Here I am, came a loud voice. Ino turned around and gasped.
Naruto was dressed in a new wardrobe, with no sign of orange.
The blonde wore dark blue pants with a kunai hustler on his right thigh.
He wore a pair of black ninja sandals and a pair of black fingerless gloves with small metal plates, like his teacher Jiraiya.
He also wore a long-sleeve black shirt with a white spiral on its back.
He had also changed his headband from blue to black. Ino thought that it was a much better and neat improvement.
Ino gave Naruto an approving smile. Not bad, Naruto, she said, you actually look like a ninja now. Naruto frowned. Clothes don't make the ninja.
He stated, I'm going to go pay.
You can wait for me outside if you want. Ino nodded and went outside.
Once there she gave off a big sigh. It had been a very long day for her and was glad that it would be over soon, since the sun was already setting. She had been glad to have spent the day with Naruto since she felt that she could be herself when she was with him. She would show her weak side and trust Naruto not to take advantage of it. Ino was glad to have a friend whom she could trust this much. Naruto came out of the store with a sad look.
Gamma had taken quite a blow today but would survive.
The blonde hated to hurt his companion like that and wouldn't it be doing it again any time soon. Ino smiled when she saw Naruto come out.
Ready to go? She asked. Naruto nodded. Do you need me to walk you home? Ino gave a small smile and shook her head. I'll be okay, she said, I need some time alone anyway. Naruto gave Ino a genuine smile. Thank you, Ino.
I just took you to a shop, it wasn't a big deal, Ino responded with a grin.
Naruto shook his head. No, thank you for everything.
He gazed at her eyes and she couldn't help but blush. Her heartbeat rose due to the intensity of his gaze. You've been really good to me. So, thank you for all you've done for me.
I'll see you later. With a single wave, Naruto made his way home. Ino stood frozen on the spot.
She had been completely thrown off by what Naruto had said. The girl smiled, that idiot had made it seem like he hadn't done anything for her. If only he knew how much he had done for her. He had made her take training seriously and had given her a reason to get stronger. She didn't want to be a burden on anyone and would get stronger to help others.
No.
Ino began before smiling towards Naruto's retreating figure. Thank you, Naruto. Naruto panted and frowned. No matter what he did, he still wasn't able to summon bigger toads. Like usual, he had gone to see Jiraiya at the waterfall where they would always train. Jiraiya had told him that his usual training would be postponed until he could summon bigger toads. The blonde could feel that he was running out of chakra and gritted his teeth. he was getting frustrated with his lack of improvement.
"That's enough, kid,"
Jiraiya said with a serious look. "I'm going to take you to a place where you'll be able to master summoning."
The blonde gave Jiraiya a confused look. If the Sannin really knew of a place like that, then why hadn't he taken him there earlier? It didn't make much sense, but considering that he was dealing with Jiraiya, it didn't have to. "Where is that place, Jiraiya-sensei?"
The Sannin grinned.
"Now where would be the fun in just telling you, kid?" He motioned for Naruto to follow as he left their training spot.
As Jiraiya leapt through trees, he looked back to see Naruto trying to keep up with him. The Sannin sighed when he thought of shat he was about to do. He had no doubt that Minato would have never approved, but it was necessary for the well-being of Naruto. There were S-class ninja after him, and if he didn't learn to control the Nine Tails, then he was doomed. The Sannin broke from his line of thought when he saw his destination on the distance.
Jiraiya jumped down and landed on a small clearing. "This is it, Naruto." Naruto looked around with a frown. "What gives?" "There isn't anything special about this place,"
the blonde exclaimed.
Jiraiya frowned. "Be quiet,"
the Sannin exclaimed. Naruto instantly got quiet and looked at Jiraiya in confusion. "I brought you here so you could stare death on the face."
Naruto looked confused. "What are you talking about, Jiraiya-sensei?" the blonde asked. Jiraiya didn't say anything, only raised his hand and pushed him away.
Before he knew what happened, Naruto was falling large in endless chasm. He didn't know what Jiraiya had been thinking but tried to hold on to something. He tried to stop his fall by grabbing onto the walls of the chasm but found that they were too slippery. The blonde was out of chakra from the constant usage of the summoning jutsu, meaning that he couldn't use any of his ninjutsu to help him. His vision started to blacken before he finally lost consciousness.
Naruto woke up in a kind of sewer.
There was ankle-deep water and not much light except for the brownish glow of the walls. The place looked vaguely familiar, but he couldn't place it.
He looked around before hearing deep breathing and, most of all, warmth.
The blonde walked towards the source of the warmth and found himself in front of a cage.
"What is this?" he asked himself.
He looked at the large cage in wonder before finally gazing at an advanced restriction seal. This must be. A large face made itself known from inside the cage.
It had a large evil grin and piercing red eyes. "Hello, Naruto," it growled. Naruto gaped. "Kyuubi."
Naruto looked at the giant face of the fox in fear. It was the same face that had been on his dream. The same smile that had laughed as it killed all those precious to him. The blonde felt memories of the dream come back to him and gritted his teeth.
Emotions from the dream came back, but the most dominant one was rage. The fox gave an evil smirk and growled. "Come closer."
The Kyuubi roared with rage. "I'm going to rip you to shreds for keeping me here."
Naruto trembled slightly at the demonic voice but stood his ground. "Shut up, you damned fox,"
the blonde growled. "I need some of your chakra or I'm going to die."
"I'll kill you for your insolence, brat," the fox growled in a powerful voice.
"If I die, then you die with me." "I'm sure you don't want that," Naruto said with a frown.
The Kyuubi growled before breaking into an evil smirk. "I will give you some of my chakra now, but I will kill you as soon as I get the chance.
You and your puny village will tremble before my power." Red chakra leaked out of the cage and made its way to Naruto. The blonde grimaced when the chakra enveloped him. The chakra was foul and had nothing but raw power.
Naruto's skin was boiling due to the intensity and his insides felt as if they were on fire.
The blonde felt darkness fill his vision and the last thing he saw was the smirking face of the Kyuubi. Naruto regained consciousness and saw that he was still falling down the chasm. He felt the fox's chakra give him strength and he bit his right thumb, drawing blood. The only thing that would save him would be summoning a large toad. The blonde ran through hand signs and focused most of his chakra on the summoning. Naruto's eyes widened when he formed a giant cloud of smoke and landed on something squishy.
The blonde looked down and saw a giant red head with many warts.
The large red toad stopped its fall by taking hold of both of the rocky walls with its arms and feet.
"Who summoned me?" Naruto heard the giant toad exclaim, "Where are you, Jiraiya? For summoning me in a place like this, I'll make you pay." Naruto smiled in excitement.
He had summoned a giant toad. That meant that he had mastered summoning.
"I summoned you!"
The blonde yelled from the top of the toad's head before jumping to the toad's nose. "My name is Naruto Uzumaki, and I'm the one who summoned you."
The toad frowned. "Quit joking. No kid should be able to summon me," the chief toad Gamabunta.
The chief toad jumped out of the chasm and landed on a large clearing. "Jiraiya,
where are you?"
The blonde frowned.
"I told you that I summoned you." He proceeded to glare at the toad. "Why won't you believe me?" The chief scowled. "If you're so persistent, then I'll give you a test."
The toad started. "If you are able to stay on my head until sundown, then I'll let you become my henchman."
Naruto grinned. "Fine by me, Chief Toad."
He ran to Gamabunta's head and prepared himself. "I'll pass this test for sure." Gamabunta frowned at the last comment and, without warning, leapt from his place on the ground at a high speed. Naruto screamed as the toad jumped. It was difficult to stay in place because of how fast the toad was jumping. The blonde was trying to stabilize himself on the toad's head by using chakra on his feet. This proved hard because of all the wind against him and because the sheer speed of the toad prevented him from concentrating. Jiraiya watched the blonde with a smirk. It hadn't been wise to anger Gamabunta, and he was paying for it. The Sannin knew that the chief would be angry at him, but knew that he wouldn't mind when he told him who Naruto was. The toad had made a promise to the fourth and would honor it on Toad's honor. Jiraiya chuckled when he saw that Naruto was about to fall, only to use his clones to save himself. The blonde proved to be a gun person to have around. The sun was setting and everything was peaceful around the Leaf Village, well except for the giant toad trying to shake a kid off its head. The toad soared through the skies as it jumped, before landing with a great tremor. Only Jiraiya was near the area since he was watching his student. Naruto was drenched in sweat and had a small trail of blood under his mouth from the time where he slammed into the toad's head. The fox's chakra had disappeared hours ago and Naruto had been forced to use the little chakra he had left. The blonde was so focused on staying on the toad's head that he had lost the sense of time long ago. He was only running on the will to beat the toad and nothing else. Gamabunta was growing impatient and mad. The blonde kid had been able to stay atop his head and the sun was already going down. He had to give it to the kid, he had a respectful determination. The toad was already considering letting the boy summon toads, but he wouldn't let him pass his test. If the blonde passed, then that would mean that the toad had been beaten on a sort of bet, and he wouldn't have that. With one last powerful heap, the toad tried to shake the blonde off. Naruto hung on to a large wart with all his strength. He felt himself lose his grip until he was finally blown off the toad. The blonde gritted his teeth and gathered whatever chakra he had left. The toad smirked when he saw the blonde fall off his head. He had been victorious, but he would still let the kids summon toads since they were always impressed by determination. Naruto was much like Jiraiya on his will to never give up. "Wind style, wind wave!" Naruto yelled. He launched the attack on the opposite direction of the toad in order to try to get back to the toad's head. Gamabunta gave a look of disbelief. The boy would just not quit. Naruto launched towards him at a great speed with the setting sun behind him. A shadow was cast on Naruto's face so that only his blonde hair and blue eyes were visible. At that moment Gamabunta was reminded of his last summoner, other than Jiraiya, the fourth Hokage. "I won't fail!" Naruto yelled as he slammed, headfirst, to the toad's head. He stifled a cry at the pain on his head and watched as the sun disappeared on the horizon. The blonde smiled, he had passed the test, and finally blacked out. With no more strength, Naruto fell lifelessly from the toad's head. "You have guts, kid," Gamabunta said as he stopped Naruto's falling by rapping him on his tongue.
The toad set him on the ground. You can summon us toads whenever you need help. With that, the chief toad disappeared in a cloud of smoke. Jiraiya walked over to his fallen student and smiled proudly at him. Naruto had done a great job with nothing but will. The blonde was truly surprising, and the Sannin had no doubt that the blonde would surpass him one day. For some reason, Jiraiya couldn't wait to get Naruto's training started. The blonde would go places and Jiraiya would be there to guide him. For now, the blonde needed some medical attention and rest. The Sannin would have to leave town for a while, but he would be back by the time the Chunin exam finals were over. It had been 2 days since the test with Gamabunta, and Naruto was still asleep. The hit he received on the head had fractured his skull, but, thanks to the Kyuubi's healing, his skull had been healed quickly. A few of Naruto's friends had heard about his state and had visited him. Ino had visited Naruto constantly, due to their close friendship. Much to Shikamaru's annoyance, Ino had been asking everyone if they knew what happened to the blonde and wouldn't stop asking whenever their team was training. Naruto stirred from his sleep. He opened his eyes but immediately closed them because of the brightness of the room. He didn't know where he was or how he had gotten there. The last thing he remembered was his test with the chief toad. Did I pass the test? He finally opened his eyes and saw white walls and curtains. He instantly knew that he was in the hospital and felt an itch on his head. Naruto tried to scratch his head but felt bandages around his head. It was then that he remembered everything. He had passed the test by slamming into the toad. Looks like you're finally awake, Naruto heard a voice say. He turned to the voice and found the lazy genius leaning on the wall with a basket filled with fruit on his hand. Shikamaru? Naruto said in confusion. He never really thought that Shikamaru would visit him. In fact, nobody, except for the third and Irika, had ever visited him on a hospital. Shikamaru sighed. Good thing you're finally awake. Ino's been worried about you and she wouldn't stop bothering us with questions about you. Naruto looked confused. Why would she be worried about me? Shikamaru shook his head. You're really dumb sometimes. He gave Naruto a small grin. You're our friend and Ino's grown really close to you. Everyone who knows you're here has visited you at least once. I matter to a lot of people now. He thought with a smile, a real one this time. Enough of this sappy moment. Shikamaru said with a sigh, I brought some food to Choji, but he's not allowed to eat any of it. Do you want it? Naruto smiled. Sure, I'm pretty hungry. He got an evil smirk and chuckled. Why don't we eat this in front of Choji? You're on, Shikamaru said with a smirk of his own. The two left the room and walked over to Choji's, but stopped when they felt killer intent. Naruto turned towards the source and saw that it was coming from one of the patient rooms. He gave a glance to Shikamaru, who nodded in assurance, and the two entered the room. Inside, they saw Gaara in front of Lee's bed. His sand was leaking from under him and making its way to Lee. Shikamaru stopped Gaara with his shadow possession jutsu while a Naruto clone moved Lee away from the sand. What do you think you're doing? Naruto exclaimed with a frown. Gaara glared at the two. I must prove my existence. He said in a cold voice, he hurt me and he must die. Shikamaru was panting lightly and sweat trickled down his face. He's too strong. I won't be able to hold him for long. Naruto grinned and prepared his spiraling wind ball jutsu. Don't worry, I'll knock him down if he does escape. Gaara got a psychotic look on his face. I can't be beaten. I have a demon sealed within me. Naruto and Shikamaru gasped. I was destined to kill ever since I was born. I prove my existence by killing anyone on my path. Naruto froze. He's just like I was. He has a demon inside of him too. Naruto's wind ball dispersed. What are you doing? Shikamaru asked with a frown. Before Naruto could answer, a new person entered the room. That's enough, everyone, this is a hospital. Guy said with a frown. He took Lee from the clone and laid him on the bed. Lee needs rest, so you shouldn't fight here.
I will kill him later, Gaara said as he walked out the door.
Naruto and Shikamaru left the room soon after.
They didn't want to leave Lee alone but knew that Guy knew what was best for his student. Naruto was still shocked at the revelation of Gaara being like him.
Unlike Naruto, Gaara didn't have anyone to acknowledge him.
Naruto remembered how it felt to be completely alone and was scared to think about it. He couldn't believe how much pain he had taken and knew that if it weren't for the third in Irika then he would have been the same as Gaara. Man, that was way too troublesome.
Shikamaru said with a sigh, "What now?"
Naruto smiled, despite himself. "We still have to eat the fruit, let's go."
"Where is that perv?"
Naruto muttered as he walked through the streets of Konoha. He had been looking for Jiraiya after being discharged from the hospital. The Sannin was nowhere to be found and Naruto was starting to think that Jiraiya wasn't even in the village anymore.
With no more Jiraiya, then Naruto would need to train by himself or increase his training with Team 10. Naruto sighed.
"I'm done looking for the perv." He crossed his arms and frowned. "From now on I'm training with Team 10. The blonde changed his direction and made his way to the Yamanaka flower shop. It was around 2 in the afternoon, so Naruto knew that Ino was currently working. Spending time with the girl had given Naruto time to know when she was free.
The girl would work from 12 o'clock until 2:30.
She would rest for half an hour before going training with her team until 7 o'clock. Naruto would usually walk her home and the two would take breaks from training on the weekends. Naruto found himself in front of the shop and smiled. He was always glad to see Ino since she had become one of his most precious people. For some reason he always found himself looking forward to see her, and whenever he wasn't with her, he found himself wishing that she was. The blonde entered the shop and saw Ino reading a magazine behind the counter.
Naruto walked over to the counter and smiled. "Hey Ino."
The girl nodded without taking her eyes off the magazine. Naruto sighed. Ino would break away from the world whenever she was reading something interesting. "Ino." Ino flinched at the loud voice and snapped her head towards the source.
"Naruto?"
she exclaimed with a surprised look. She smiled and gave the blonde a hug.
"How are you? Why were you in the hospital? Are you sure you're okay?"
Naruto found himself blushing at the close contact.
"Why yeah,"
he said with a nervous smile, "I feel a lot better."
Ino pulled away from Naruto and smiled. "I'm glad,"
she said with a sweet smile before breaking into a frown. "If you ever scare me like that again, there'll be consequences." Your whole head was wrapped in bandages.
Naruto smiled apologetically. "Don't worry, I'll be fine." He broke into a foxy grin. "I still have to be Hokage, right?" Ino smiled and shook her head. "What are you doing here anyway?"
"I came here to ask you something," he said with a smile.
"What is it?" Ino asked with a confused look. Naruto grinned. "Apparently, Jiraiya-sensei left town, so I was wondering if I could train more time with you guys?" Ino couldn't help but smile. "Of course. It's always fun to have you around. Asuma-sensei won't have a problem with it."
"I have a problem with this," Asuma said with a serious expression.
Ino's face fell. "What do you mean?"
She frowned and crossed her arms. "I don't see anything wrong with Naruto training with us."
Asuma sighed.
"If he trains with us all the time then you two will get distracted."
Asuma shook his head when he saw the two blondes give him an odd look.
He guessed that they still hadn't noticed. "Fine, he can train with us."
Naruto and Ino cheered.
Asuma couldn't help but smile. Though the two didn't know it, they had a deep bond.
The two were alike in many ways and Asuma was glad that they made each other happy.
He was especially glad that Naruto had made Ino take her training seriously. "Naruto, come here for a moment,"
Asuma said.
Naruto walked over with a curious expression. "I have a new exercise for you."
Asuma took out a small knife and gave it to Naruto.
That's one of the knives I use for battle. They can be infused with wind chakra to have a longer reach and enhanced power. He explained, I want you to infuse that knife with chakra, and if you surprise me then I'll let you keep it.
Naruto smiled in excitement.
Don't worry, Asuma-sensei, I'll have this down in no time. The blonde went over to the nearby river and took off his shirt.
What are you doing? Asuma asked in slight confusion. Naruto grinned. Jiraiya-sensei was teaching me how to dispel genjutsu and taught me how to incorporate chakra into things.
The blonde explained, if I'm right, all I have to do is use the same method to incorporate chakra into the knife and then mold it like I did with the leaf and rock exercises.
Asuma broke into a small grin.
The blonde had gotten the concept down pretty easily. That's all there is to it, good luck. Ino smiled at her friend.
Naruto had gotten down what to do pretty quickly.
By spending time with the blonde, Ino had deducted that Naruto hid his true capabilities. For what purpose, she did not know, but what she did know was that if Naruto was serious all the time then he would make most of them look like idiots.
Ino had been encouraging Naruto on showing his true self and was glad to see that he was slowly doing so.
Stop drooling over Naruto, Ino. Shikamaru said with a sigh, we have to start training.
Ino blushed and glared at Shikamaru.
I wasn't staring at him. She declared, I was just lost in thought.
Shikamaru sighed.
Blondes were really troublesome, but most of all loud. He didn't understand why the two wouldn't just come out and say it, but then again, they might not even realize it.
The genius pushed those thoughts away. Worrying over what Ino and Naruto felt was way too troublesome.
He was already forced to train, so why bother thinking about the blondes? The worst thing was that he had to fight a blonde on the Chunin exams. That would be such a pain. A week passed and things couldn't be better for Naruto. He had grown close to the Ino Shikacho trio. Naruto would be often found eating with Choji after their training was over. Shikamaru and Naruto had developed a good friendship due to their shogi matches in which Shikamaru, much to his annoyance, actually had to try, though he viewed Naruto as a worthy adversary. Naruto and Ino had grown even closer to a point where they would spend most of their free time together. The whiskered blonde still chased after Sakura, but his attempts had greatly lessened. The blonde had learned to infuse wind chakra onto Asuma's knife in 3 days, due to the help of his clones and knowledge with chakra manipulation.
Asuma had been impressed and gave Naruto the knife and even taught him how to use it in battle. Naruto had also learned to use all of the jutsu Kakashi gave him, though he still used too much chakra when performing them.
The blonde was glad of the progress he had made and knew that he had a good chance of beating Neji. Only 1 day remained until the Chunin exam finals started.
Naruto walked through town with his usual obliviousness to those around him.
He had been told to rest since the finals were the following day.
Naruto had nothing to do since most of his friends were busy at the moment. Ino would be working, Choji was home, Shikamaru was spending the day watching the clouds, and Sakura was nowhere to be found.
The blonde sighed, days like this were boring to the blonde.
With nothing else to do, Naruto figured that he would visit Ino and see if he could help with anything.
He helped around the shop from time to time and Ino greatly appreciated it. Naruto had run into Ino's mom from time to time, but he was getting better at talking to her. The woman was nice and treated him like a person, not a thing.
Thinking about his old treatment, Naruto couldn't help but think of Gaara.
They both had had the same life filled with nothing but loneliness and cold glares. Naruto had been lucky to have met people who acknowledged him while Gaara had nobody.
Gaara had been left on that dark place while Naruto had been taken away from it.
The blonde knew that Gaara was stronger than him because he had been able to live his whole life like that. Naruto dismissed those thoughts when he saw that he was approaching the Yamanaka flower shop.
He entered the shop with a grin. Something about the shop would always put him at ease. Maybe it was getting to spend time with his friend or the smell of flowers. "Hi Naruto." Ino greeted with a smile, "What are you doing here?" Naruto smiled back. There's nothing to do, so I thought of paying you a visit, the blonde said. Got anything for me to do?
Well, there are some seed bags that need to be moved, Ino said, but why would you waste your time here?
Naruto grinned. I'm not wasting time, he said as he walked over to the bags. I'm glad to help you out.
Ino smiled in appreciation.
Thanks, Naruto. I'll make it up to you someday. She looked at Naruto with a smile. Nervous about tomorrow? You're going up against a genius. Naruto huffed. As if I'd get beaten by Neji.
He picked up a bag and placed it on a small cart. I've been working my butt off all month.
I'm not going to let Neji beat me. Ino giggled.
Don't worry, Naruto, I'm sure you'll win.
Besides, you'll have me cheering for you, she said with a smile. My cheers work wonders, just so you know. Naruto chuckled. It'll be nice to have someone rooting for me,
he said as he placed another bag of seeds on the cart. Everyone thinks that Neji will win, but I'll show them what I'm made of. I'm sure you will, Naruto, Ino said with a smile. Thanks, Ino, Naruto said with the same look he had given her before. His eyes shone with appreciation and she found herself staring into his eyes. Her heartbeat rose and a blush spread through her face. She didn't know what she was feeling, but it was a comfortable feeling that made her feel that she would be safe with Naruto.
Ino didn't know what this feeling was, but she would find out.
Neji, Shino, Kankuro, Temari, Shikamaru, Gaara, and lastly Naruto stood in the fighting area of the large stadium that housed the Chunin exam finals. Naruto was worried about Sasuke not making it in time. The proctor, Danma, had delayed the beginning of the finals a few minutes in order to give Sasuke more time, but the Uchiha still hadn't shown up.
Danma was currently talking to the Hokage up on a balcony that overlooked the entire fight area. The proctor went back to the fight area and cleared his throat. We will move on to the first fight, Danma said in a loud voice. Everyone but Neji Hyuga and Naruto Uzumaki leave at once. The genin left the fight area, leaving only a confident Naruto and a smug Neji.
The Hyuga looked at Naruto with a look of disgust. The blonde had only won the first round due to a vulgar action. It was fated for Naruto to lose.
Why don't you give up right now? Neji asked with a frown. People like you are fated to lose against me. Naruto grinned. I'm not going to lose to you. I have a dream to accomplish and I'm not going to let you slow me down.
Naruto slipped into his Toad Taijutsu style and smirked. I'm going to teach you that fate can be a bitch.
The Chunin exams finals begin now. Are you two ready? Ganma asked.
Receiving a nod from the two genin, Ganma grinned. Begin.